So this was...
This was Ako Doma, a Slovak folklore group in Belgium, accompanied by Tomáš PETŘÍČEK, who played the iconic song Angel by Karel Kryl. The choreography that was prepared specially for this occasion used steps and rhythms of the traditional Slovak dance from the region of Hore Hroně, a symbolic reminder of the power of the people and crowds who came together to the streets and squares to fight for the democracy and freedom in 1989. So together with the photographs from this period, we tried to create an authentic atmosphere of those revolutionary days. So thank you again. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we have met here tonight to inaugurate the exhibition 1989, The Velvet Revolution. The event was prepared in the collaboration of the Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Maroš ŠEFČOVIČ, Member of the European Commission, Madam Věra JOUROVÁ, Permanent Representation of the Czech Republic to the European Union, Permanent Representation of the Slovak Republic to the European Union, and the Czech Center, Brussels. And now the time is for the opening speeches, so let me please invite all the speakers here with me to the stage. So let me present to you now the Vice President of the European Commission, Mr. Maroš ŠEFČOVIČ, for the first opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Good evening to all of you. It's really very symbolic and heartwarming to have the possibility to really mark this very special occasion for all of us here in Berlin. And I really would like to welcome in particular my colleague, not only the Commissioner, but Vice President designate, Věra JOUROVÁ, with whom we've been really the best buddies in the current European Commission. But also my colleague, Commissioner Stylianides, who is also a man of great knowledge, personal warmth, and great charm, and I'm very much appreciating the fact that you are here. But of course, two of my close colleagues and friends, Miroslav LAJČÁK, not only the Foreign Minister of Slovakia, but my friend of many years, and Ambassador of Czech Republic, Mr. Dur, with whom we also have a lot of common stories. And if I'm looking in the audience, I see my friends, members of the European Parliament. I see my first boss here from the Federal Foreign Minister, Mr. Kovanda, and I see a lot of friends and colleagues from the time of the Velvet Revolution. And I know them all because this was the moment which we very often discussed together, because I think definitely for me this was the few weeks and months which forever will be stuck in my memories as probably the most important period for our generation. And therefore I'm so happy that together with my friends and colleagues we can open this exhibition of iconic photographs, because you know it very well, the photograph is very often worth of 1,000 words. And I'm sure that the photographs will very clearly do the merit to this saying, and you will simply see how dramatic the information, the situation was, what was the tension in the faces of the people, and how not everyone was 100% sure that everything will work out fine. What happened in the Velvet Revolution was the fact that after 4 decades, we in Central and Eastern Europe could finally enjoy the same freedom which were taken for granted in Western European countries. Freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, and freedom of travel. For all those born after 1989, for example, my children, it's totally incomprehensible when I was describing to them that we have actually the Iron Curtain, that fence just a few kilometers from our apartment, and for us to cross the river Danube and go to Austria was something of unthinkable dream. When we look at Europe today, we know how much has changed and how much we have accomplished. I have to say, and now I believe that I can also speak a little bit for our Czech friends, then together, Czechs and Slovak, we accomplished a lot since Velvet Revolution. After 15 years of very hard work, we joined the European Union. We joined the key military alliance, NATO. And we can testify, all of us, that it was not a smooth process, but that we have to earn it. We have to reform, we have to transform, and we had to deliver. And we really did it, and therefore our both countries are today very important members of the European Union. I would like to conclude on the fact that also today, 30 years after the fall of Berlin Wall, after the Velvet Revolution, that we have to appreciate the freedom, and we cannot take it for granted, because freedom is something you have to work for every single day. And this is what the European Union stands for, and this is what all of us are working hard to deliver on every day. To conclude, I just would like to make two references. One to Alexander Dubček, who wanted to bring, as a Slovak leader of the Prague Spring, the human face into the politics, but also to Václav Havel, who I believe managed to bring humanism to the daily political and decision making. So thank you very much to all of you for coming over here to celebrate this very important moment in our history with us. I would like to thank my colleagues for making this exhibition possible, and I'm sure you will enjoy the photographs and the talk and bit of the memories we are very happy to share with all of you of such an important moment in our history. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We are really honored to have here with us tonight also His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Slovak Republic, Mr. Miroslav LAJČÁK.
Thank you very much. Good evening, dobrý večer. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to be with you tonight, and thank you all for joining us to remember these fascinating days of November 1989 in Bratislava, in Prague, and all over the former Czechoslovakia. And we know that our revolution was held under two slogans. The first one was free elections, and the second one was return to Europe. And it was the call of Europe, the community that cherishes democratic values, that protects the rights and improves lives of people that we wanted to belong to. And we accomplished our dreams 15 years later, when we joined the European Union, and this was the moment when finally the walls and the barriers that started falling down in 1989 were finally removed. Today, 30 years later, I'm glad to say that Slovakia and the Czech Republic remains the closest allies and partners, sharing not only the common past, but also the common vision for the future, and we are proudly offering and hosting this exhibition for you. And I also want to say that even today, 30 years after our Velvet Revolution, it still has a lot to offer to many. Let me mention 3 points. First, its non-violent nature, namely the fact, you know, it was not called Velvet Revolution by chance. And it proved that democracy can be won without arms and without violence. Second, the way it unified the nations. And what started as an initiative of some very quickly turned into an event, into a movement supported by almost everyone. And it shows how much we can achieve if we want together, and how far we can go if we work together for common good. And thirdly, the call of Europe. It was Europe that mobilized us. It was Europe that inspired us. And Europe still continues to inspire millions of people outside of the borders of the European Union, and let us not forget these people. They are still Europeans. Finally, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so I would like to invite you all to enjoy this exhibition. It brings the story, the emotions, the hopes of those fascinating days, and I hope it can still inspire you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. The Minister of the Foreign Affairs of the Czech Republic could not join us tonight. He is sending his warmest regards, but I do have the honor to welcome here tonight the Ambassador, the Permanent Representative of the Czech Republic to the European Union, His Excellency Jakub Dýr.
Thank you, Jitka. Good evening, dobrý večer. The reason why the minister couldn't be here, he's actually at the pilgrimage to the Vatican to actually celebrate 30 years of a major event which started the Velvet Revolution in Czechoslovakia, and this is the patron Agnes who was actually starting the events in Czechoslovakia. Věra Maroš, Minister LAJČÁK, Excellencies guests, it is a great honor to be here and to have the opportunity to tell you how great we are, how grateful we are for the way we can celebrate 30 years after. Discontent and rebellion, fight for freedom and democracy. 30 years ago, we saw a turning point between talk and action, and that was Czechoslovak contribution to the world. We brought the name, the term Velvet Revolution to the existence. No single bullet was shot, and that was unheard of, unimaginable, when you would also imagine that the evil of empire, the empire which wasn't collapsing so easily, was still there. And without any drop, any blood being shed, that is what was happening. The Velvet Revolution, or sometimes Slovaks and others call it gentle revolution, was later applied as a term to describe the revolutions in Poland, Hungary, East Germany, and over the course of all those years and months. 30 years on, what happened in Europe in 1989 became a model for other non-violent pro-democracy movements which have triumphed in many countries since then. Timothy Gordon Ash, the liberal thinker and essayist and a scholar, in his very famous book, Year of Miracles, would describe it in a very clear dynamics as it happened. What took Poles 10 years, it took Hungarians 10 months, it took Eastern Germans 10 weeks, and in a way, it took Czechoslovaks 10 days. The symbol of demonstrations besides Václav Havel and Alexander Dubček, both were mentioned by previous speakers, it was a cleaning lady. It was a cleaning lady who was prohibited any public appearance or performance. And suddenly, she occurred on the balcony on the Wenceslas Square, and now she is singing the most famous song of 1968, The Prayer for Martha. It was actually the Czech humanist and philosopher who gave her the lyrics, Comenius, the teacher of the nations. Let me quote, these are the words of the song which became one of the symbols of the revolution, besides the angel, the second one. Let peace remain with this country. Malice, envy, spite, fear and strife, let those pass. Let them quickly, finally pass away. Now that your lost governance of your affairs is returning to you, people, is returning. The cloud is slowly flowing away from the sky, and everybody is harvesting what they've sown. Let my prayer speak to the hearts which, by the time of ire, were not burned like flowers by frost, like by frost. Those words were used by Václav Havel in his first presidential speech on 1st of January 1990. And I know that Václav Havel is an inspiration to all of us, and I understand why. In the speech he gave to the European Parliament in Strasbourg in March 1994, he said this, referring to the European Union. If the citizens of Europe understand that this is not just an anonymous bureaucratic monster to limit or even deny their autonomy, but simply a new type of human community that actually broadens their freedoms significantly, then the European Union need not to fear for its future. The task is convincing our citizens that it is indeed what Europe is about, it is still relevant as ever. And I think that we all who gathered here today need to embody the essence of this endeavor as human rather than anonymous or bureaucratic. Today, we are far from being perfect. We face problems, but of different nature than before. Most importantly, we do not face them alone, but together in our European family. It is a testimony to the European nature of the anniversary that we are celebrating it in a prominent company of the 2 European commissioners in the seats of the European Commission with a crowd of Czech, Slovaks and internationals. We learned many lessons in 1989. We need to remember those lessons, not in nostalgia, not in celebrating freedom, or not in fighting only for the freedom as it was won 30 years ago, but in our relations with countries that are currently unfree. It was our mistake to imagine that a revolution creates a perfect government and society, a new normal, irreversible progress. This is not the case, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. The Velvet Revolution, it seems, has not just a past, but also a present and a future. A model for now, how the voice of the people can be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. And finally, let me also welcome for the opening remarks the host of this event tonight, the member of the European Commission, Madam Věra Jourová.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, dear friends, let us celebrate today, because there is a very strong case, very strong reason for celebration. Well, it's imaginable, 30 years. I remember very well the Velvet Revolution. We were so young, so fresh, so energetic. Now we are fresh and energetic. But still, I remember the total happiness and euphoria. Finally, we got rid of Bolsheviks. And a year before Velvet Revolution, we didn't even think about that it might one day come. And then the Germans started to move. And in Hungary, in Poland, everything was suddenly moving and waiting for the Czechs and Slovaks to move again. You are still young, energetic and fresh, Maroš. Don't worry, it didn't apply to you. Well, so we have a very good reason to celebrate, because Velvet Revolution gave us a fantastic chance. It gave us an opportunity to work for freedom and, of course, to pay the price for freedom. And we did it. Czechs and Slovaks worked very hard to have more prosperous and happier country. And perhaps today, if Václav Havel has a speech, I would wish him to be here with us, believe me. He would maybe say, our country is flourishing. But I think he would add economically flourishing. And it's not the same thing. The Czechs know what I speak about, because in one of his famous speeches he mentioned in 1990, I think Jakub, you quoted him from this speech, this country is not flourishing. He was absolutely right. So it was a great success. And not only the Velvet Revolution and the fact that we got rid of totalitarian regime, we joined NATO and we joined European Union. So just let us imagine where we would be without that. I, in fact, don't want to imagine it. One of the satellites of Soviet Union, let's forget it, but let's not lose the ability to imagine it, because I think it's very important. On Saturday, I watched the events in Berlin very carefully. I was looking after my 2-month-old granddaughter. Believe me, it was an incredible moment. She stopped crying when Angela Merkel started to speak. And I realized, voila, this young lady has a good political instinct. And I remember well what Angela Merkel said, that there is not such a big wall which is impossible to destroy. But many of us have to add that the most difficult thing is to destroy the mental walls which we have, which we still have. It was not easy to get rid of Bolsheviks, but it's much less easy to get rid of Bolshevik thinking. And we still have to bear this in mind. As I said, the Czechs and Slovaks worked very hard to live in a free and prosperous country. And the Europeans helped us a lot. So that's why I'm so happy that I see many colleagues and friends who are not Czechs and Slovaks, you who come from other countries, because you were helping us to join the EU. I myself in the 90s went to several study visits to United Kingdom, to France, to the Netherlands, and the colleagues in these countries were not only inviting us, they were welcoming us. They wanted us to join the EU and to cooperate, and it has to be reminded, and we should thank our European friends for inviting and welcoming us. Yet, there are not only positive things. When I look at this picture behind our colleagues, behind the Minister and Maroš, when you look at the faces, I wonder if there is such a demonstration today, whether all of them would say the Velvet Revolution brought only positive things. There are many disappointed people. The people on the picture had a dream, but now the people know the reality. And these disappointed people, they are waiting for us to take lessons and to stop making mistakes. I think it was not planned that in Europe we will have winners and losers. There are too many people who think they are losers and who were not able to come along with quick changes and who now feel the frustration. Of course, when I remember the 90s in the Czech Republic, there was increasing inequality in the society. And many people worked hard to be richer than others, but some not. And they were richer automatically because we had some strange doctrine that no money smells, and that the economy must go first and then the law. And it went to the detriment of the whole society. So still now we have the people who think that the revolutions in 1989 were not successful, that they didn't work well for them. And so here I come to our hot presents. There are frustrations which have the potential to install again authoritarian regimes. I'm so unhappy to say that, and I am also very nervous. This is my sleepless night idea that this process, which we experienced after 1989, may not be irreversible, and that we have to work hard to keep democracy and freedoms. And as Maroš said, I am the Vice President designate for values and transparency. It is why I am quite nervous about this fact that freedom and democracy is not irreversible. Because we have to work together for the values. I receive a lot of mails from Czech people. When I go to Czech restaurant, the people come to me and ask me, what are the values you will work on? What is it? But there is one interesting thing. Czechs are very ironic people, sometimes very cynical also, but they ask me, what do you mean by values? And there is always added, we would like you to explain that, but we feel that it is something very important. And I am happy about this and after these discussions, because it is clear that we have to explain which values we have in mind, and that we must not be alone with it. If you remember Miloš Jakeš on Hrádeček, this is another Czech story. He said he was the general secretary of the Communist Party, and he had a very yes, energetic speech, and he said, we must not be alone with our politics. I would not expect myself to quote Mr. Jakeš today, but I must say we must not be alone with our politics of protecting values, because we will need the people to be with us. What are the values? Citizenship, active citizens, which is something uncomfortable for those who would like to have authoritarian power. Independent justice, again, something very uncomfortable. Independent and pluralistic media, again, for those who want to have absolute power in the society, it's uncomfortable. So me, as the future Vice President responsible for values, I declare here, I will be uncomfortable very much in case of need. So, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't believe I will speak longer than my predecessors, but I'm afraid it's true. So let's work hard, let's take lessons, but today let's celebrate. And let me finally thank Aneška, Gabriela, and Renata for organizing this fantastic event. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.